Welcome to this session on biological hazards, animal and animal products. This forms a part of the course MEV 002 Environmental and Occupational Hazards. I introduce myself as Dr. Sushmita Bhaskar, working in the discipline of Environmental Studies at the School of Interdisciplinary and Transdisciplinary Studies, Indira Gandhi National Open University, New Delhi. So let us now see the learning objectives of this module. After listening and reading this module, you will be able to explain the various hazards that are caused by animal and animal products by the consumption of these. And you will also be able to describe and understand the allergies that are caused by animal products, the toxins that are generated and their effects on human beings and livestock. Now over 200 diseases are caused by eating contaminated food. And normally this food is contaminated with the microorganisms such as bacteria, viruses, parasites, and sometimes we even find chemical substances like heavy metals in the food and food products. For example, the chicken and the chick products. So these are given antibiotics. So you may find even those residues in the products that we consume. So this growing public health problem, this causes considerable socio-economic impacts through the strains on the healthcare system, and the productivity is also that way hampered, and it also harms the tourism and the trade in that sector. So all these diseases, they significantly contribute to the global burden of disease and mortality. The foodborne diseases, as we can say, they are caused by the contamination of food at any stage of the food production, delivery and the consumption stage. And they can result from several forms of the environmental contamination, and that includes the pollution of the water, the soil, air pollution, and also the hygiene and the good practices that are observed during the food processing and food storage and the entire food chain process, right from when we purchase the product, the raw material, until it is coming at the consumer's end. Now let us have a look at foodborne diseases. This encompasses a range of illnesses. It could range from diarrhea to even severe cancers. So normally it causes gastrointestinal upset as a mild asymptomatic or symptomatic upset. It can cause neurological disorders. It can also cause immunological symptoms. The disease causing diarrhea, these are a major problem in all countries of the world, and the burden is carried disproportionately by the low and the middle income group countries. And usually the children under 5 years of age are affected in this process by this foodborne illnesses. Now some animals and animal products, they are considered as biological hazards because they can cause allergies and other ailments. The diseases which are transmitted from animals to human beings, they are also referred to as zoonosis. These are infectious diseases that can be vector borne, or they can be transmitted directly from the wild or the domestic animals. For example, that can include plague, anthrax and also salmonella. So the burden of foodborne disease, this is substantial. Now if you see in this figure, it shows you the amount of the food products that are contaminated. You see 17% of poultry, then the leafy vegetables that may contribute 12 to 13%. Beef is also contaminated by 12%. In the same way, fruits and nuts, then the wine, then dairy products, so pork, there are all these which can be affected, and there are outbreaks associated with the consumption of these items. So if you see every year there are so many of the foodborne illnesses and diseases that are reported. 1 in 10 people who fall ill, and 33 million healthy life years are being lost. So this is a matter of concern. So foodborne diseases are preventable, and how do we get a foodborne disease? When we eat some contaminated food, and this may be caused, as I referred to in the earlier slide, it could be caused due to certain microorganisms like bacteria, certain viruses, then the fungi, it could be a parasite, there could be chemicals, and also due to certain biohazards and various other reasons. On an average, one new infectious disease emerges in humans every 4 months. Although several originate in the wildlife, in livestock, but they can also serve as an epidemiological bridge between the wildlife and the human infection. So they can transmit diseases from one organism to the humans. Now this is especially the case for intensively reared livestock, which are often genetically similar within a herd or flock, and therefore they lack the genetic diversity that provides resilience, and the result of being bred for production characteristic rather than disease resistance. An example of livestock acting as a disease bridge is that of the case of bird flu or the avian influenza pathogen. So this was first cultivated in the wild birds that infected the domestic poultry, and then after that it passed on to the human beings. Animal toxins. Animal toxins, these are a complete mixture of polypeptides, it could be enzymes and chemicals which can cause cellular injury. So the symptoms of toxicity can be varied, and they can include poor circulation, swelling, headaches, migraines, stress, anxiety, depression, allergies, poor skin, yeast, arthritis, fatigue, then constipation, obesity, cellulite formation, sinus issues. They could create gout, digestive disorders, cold and respiratory disorders, insomnia and sleeping disorder, bloating, and also a gaseous distension of the abdomen. So foodborne disease may lead to long lasting disability and also death in extreme circumstances. Examples of unsafe food, they include the uncooked food of animal origin, of fruits and vegetables that could be contaminated with the feces, and also the raw shellfish. This can contain various algal and marine biotoxins. So all this can cause foodborne infections. Now in recent years, ecotourism, urbanization, travel, this has also increased, and there are changes in the consumer habits, including in your eating habits, then the travel style. This has all increased the number of people buying and eating food, even raw food which are uncooked meat in the public places. So globalization has triggered the growing consumer demand for a wide variety of food that results in an increasingly complex and longer global food chain. Now one example is that which occurred in 2017 and 18 in South Africa. That was a contamination of a raw meat which was contaminated with the bacteria Listeria monocytogenes, and it resulted in more than 1000 cases of Listeriosis and several deaths, maybe around 200 deaths or so. So in this case, these contaminated products were also exported to 15 other countries in Africa. So therefore this required an international response to implement the risk management measures. Now coming on to the animal products. So in this figure you can see the eggs, the poached eggs, and also certain animal products. So these are very tasty to eat, and when they are prepared well in a hygienic and scientific manner, then it is safe for consumption. So animal product is any material which is derived from the body of animal. Example, it could be fat, flesh, it could be blood of an animal, the milk, eggs, and so on. Now animal byproducts as defined by the USDA, these are products harvested or manufactured from the livestock other than the muscle meat. All species in the biological kingdom Animalia, they come under the animal products. Now that can also include the insects, the shrimps, and also the oysters. Meat and the meat products, poultry products, fish, shellfish, what you see in this figure is a shellfish, dairy product. Non-food products also we obtain from the animals, and that is a fiber, wool, cashmere, and also the leather products. Now we also get certain additives from the animals. So for example, certain coloring agents, certain flavoring agents that we add to the food, all these can also be got from the animal and the animal products. So carmine, okay, this is carmine is red in color, crimson red, and this is obtained from the crushed cochineal beetles. It is a red or a purple substance, and this is used in many of the food product. Usually they are used in the yogurt, in candy preparation, in juice, and this has also been a source of controversy whether to use it or not. So according to the FDA, this is an allergen, and it takes a lot of the female insects to produce 1 pound of the dye. Then L-cysteine from animals, this is used in the production of biscuits and bread, and sometimes it may interfere with your system, it may not suit you. The same way rennet is used in the production of cheese. So these are all certain additives that we get from the animal in order to process certain food products. Now let us go on to certain infections and the foodborne illnesses, the diseases. The first one is Campylobacteriosis. So this is caused by the Campylobacter species. It is a bacterial infection, and the bacteria are commonly found in the feces of infected animals and in the food product that are contaminated with the bacteria during processing or preparation. Raw or undercooked chicken is one of the common sources of the human infection. Then Cryptococcosis. So this is usually caused by breathing in this type of the fungus, that is a Cryptococcus fungi, and the symptoms are cough, there is a sharp chest pain, there is shortness of breath, severe headache with confusion and fever, then there can be night sweats with unintended weight loss. This affects the people with impaired immune systems, and it can also affect the pets such as dogs and the cats. Now the Cryptococcus neoformans, it can also be found in the bird droppings such as pigeons, and if the dried bird droppings are found in the air, then people can also inhale this fungus. E. coli. Now E. coli, normally this lives in the guts of the animals and also human beings. Then this also can be shed in the feces of the animals. So most of the strains of E. coli are harmless, but some of them like E. coli, you can see the species here, that can cause certain serious problems in the human beings. So people are typically infected when we eat the contaminated food, but the infection can also occur through direct contact with the animals, and the symptoms range from diarrhea to hemolytic uremic syndrome, which is more likely to occur in the very young and the elderly because their immune system is compromised. The next is fish tank granuloma, which is mycobacteriosis. The bacteria can also occur in the aquarium fish or the food fish, and people can get infected when direct contact with this contaminated aquarium water, and if you put your hand inside, then the bacteria can easily enter the cuts and wounds which are present in the skin, and then the infection can cause skin lesions, and that lesion can even persist for several months. And with people with a weakened immune system, the bacteria can also cause joint and the bone infections. Guardiasis. This is a very common parasite and protozoan which infects the intestines of people as well as animals. The contact with an infected person, animal, and ingesting contaminated food and water. Now sometimes a person can show no sign of illness. There may be mild to severe symptom like gas, gaseous distension, fever, nausea or diarrhea, vomiting and headache. And these Giardia parasites have been found in dogs, in cats, in ruminants, in goats, cows, and also in the wild animals. Histoplasmosis. This disease is caused by a fungus called as Histoplasma capsulatum. The fungus is also found in soil, bat and bird droppings, and inhaling the spores of this fungi, this can cause the infection. The symptoms can vary greatly, but primarily this is supposed to only affect the lungs. Leptospirosis. This is again another bacterial disease, and it infects the humans and the animals. Mostly the dairy workers are affected with when they take the milk from the udder of the cows, then it can be there in the milk and the dairy products. Globally it occurs, but it is more common in the temperate and the tropical areas, and some people can have no symptoms and others may be severely ill. Some wild and domestic animals, these include the cattle, the pigs, dogs, rodents, all this harbor them and they pass it in their urine. People become ill when they come in contact with the urine or tissues from the infected animals, or exposure to the contaminated soil, food and also to the water. Listeriosis. This is caused by Listeria monocytogenes, also a bacterial infection. It is acquired by drinking and eating the food that is contaminated with this bacterial species. The sources include the unpasteurized cheese and the dairy products, hot dogs, and all this can transmit the disease. Then also the infection can also occur in the cattle and the goats, and it can cause abortions in them, reproductive disorders. When this occurs, the placental remains are heavily contaminated, and contact with those reproductive tissues can also transmit the disease and infection. Now this is specifically risky to the pregnant women, newborn and the elderly and the people with weakened immune system. So that is why it is always good to go for the pasteurized products, pasteurized milk, pasteurized cheese and the dairy products. These are the common manifestations of the listeriosis. You can see in these two figures where they have severe problems with the intestinal problems as well as other complications. And here you can see that this is risky for the pregnant women, the very old and the elderly, and also the type of the fruit products that can be contaminated, and on consumption of the same it can lead to even the abortions in women. Salmonellosis. This commonly occurs and it is a bacterial infection, and most infections happen when a person eats or drinks food contaminated with the Salmonella bacteria. Livestock, then poultry, chicks, ducklings, reptiles, they include the turtle, snake, lizard, amphibian, fish. All this consumption of these can, if they are contaminated with the bacteria, then they can cause the disease. Now, Salmonella can also cause serious infections in the young and the elderly, and also with the weakened immune system. So, in all the cases, you have seen that the immune system and the metabolism of a person is very important in biotransforming the toxicants and also detoxifying them from the system. So, kidneys and livers are very important factories and organs in our body where these contaminants can be detoxified and eliminated totally from the body. Once that is compromised and there are problems, then that will lead to the bioaccumulation of these toxins in the human body. Toxoplasmosis, again this is caused by a parasite. It is by consuming the raw vegetables or undercooked meat. Symptoms begin with a mild flu-like illness, and severe disease can occur when the parasite can invade the muscles, the nervous system, heart, the lungs or the eyes. Brucellosis. This again is very common among the dairy workers, and the symptoms are the fevers, chills and the weakness, lethargy. It can cause muscle and joint aches and pain. It can cause headaches, and this Brucella bacteria can be directly transmitted to man from the infected farm animals, and then it can infect the digestive system. So, this is a name given to a bacterial infection, and it is normally contracted from the farm animals, and again due to the consumption of unpasteurized milk and the dairy products. Children under 5 years of age carry 40% of the foodborne disease burden, and this causes lakhs and lakhs of deaths every year. In most of the cases, diarrheal diseases are the most common illness, and they result from the consumption of contaminated food, and it can cause 550 million people to fall ill and more than 2 lakh deaths every year. So, this is alarming number that is reported. The food safety, nutrition and food security, these are all linked, and unsafe food creates a vicious cycle of diseases and malnutrition. Particularly this affects the infants, the young children, the elderly and also the sick people. So, foodborne disease, this can impede the socio-economic development by straining the healthcare system. It can harm the national economies, tourism as well as trade. The food supply chains cross the multiple national borders, and very good collaboration between the governments, the producers and the consumers. This will help ensure the food safety. The International Conference on Food Safety, which was held in 2019 in Addis Ababa, and the International Forum on the Food Safety and Trade, which was held in Geneva in 2019. Both these reiterated the importance of food safety in achieving the sustainable development goals. So, government should make food safety a public health priority, as they are important for developing policies and regulatory frameworks and establishing and implementing the effective food safety systems. Now, how can policy makers bring about a change? They can help in building laboratories for addressing, managing the safety and health, foster multi-sectoral collaboration among the public health, animal health, agriculture and other sectors for better communication and joint action. They can integrate the food safety into broader food policies and programs. Now, what are the role of the consumers? So, consumers need to make the right choice before buying any food and fruit product. Read the food labels properly and you make the right choice while buying the food product. Handle and prepare food safely. Grow, cultivate and the food safely for health and the safety of all. So, where it is possible and if it is affordable, you can always go for the organic products which are not treated with the chemicals. In the same way, we need to buy the fresh vegetables and fresh produce, and not those which are canned and which are tinned or which are in the packets. Then again, one more thing that you can do is know the place from where the food has originated. So, it is always good to think locally and also buy locally if you can source them from the local markets, and you should also know the food value, that is the amount of the nutrients that are also present in the food, and in some cases that will also be written very clearly. So, this is all in the hands of the consumers, and if you find anything which is defective and even if there is any slight tarnishing, or if you find the vegetables or anything bruised, then immediately you can always make complaints and rectify the system. Now, the World Health Organization works closely with the Food and Agricultural Organization, the World Organization for Animal Health and other international organizations. So, all these they work together to ensure the food safety along the entire food chain, right from producing of the vegetable or the food product until consumption by mankind. So, this was an account of the biological hazards and the foodborne illnesses and diseases that are caused due to the consumption of animal and animal products, that is unsafe or contaminated animal and animal products. And here we have given you certain examples, then certain diseases which are caused directly, which come from the animal and the animal products. And we have also seen how the international agencies, then policy makers and also the consumers can bring about a difference and work with each other, collaborate with each other and ensure that food safety is important and right from the food chain, from production to the consumption, which forms an important part of the same. Thank you.